Game Master Tips. Number 3. How to Session Zero. Hey, what's up, everybody? This episode of Game Master Tips is all about how to have a proper Session Zero. Now, I know some GMs don't even do a Session Zero. Some have really elaborate ones, and others just lightly have them. I've also seen some, run their session zero kind of at the beginning of their session one. They'll do some of the things I would consider a session zero at the beginning of their session one. But me personally, I definitely like to have a session zero covering four main points, and your four main steps, and I like to do that, separate than a session one, because then it kind of sets me up to have a much better session one and start a much more exciting and in-depth campaign. But let's get into it. That way I can kind of explain, what my points and steps are, and what they mean to the game and the team and all that good shit. So let's get right into it. First one here is Game Master style. The first thing I like to do is, discuss with my players how I like to run a game. I like to be very violent and graphic. There's definitely, sexual content and crazy shit, and it's as wide of a spectrum of emotions that you can imagine the genre cyberpunk, involving. So I cover everything when it comes to a game master style. I cover the way I like to describe things and run a game and run rules, and I'll go into the depth of just how I am as a game master. But most important in that is describing basically how you describe the gameplay, because it's important. Some players maybe don't want to get too graphic, when it comes to certain subjects. I'm lucky enough that the players I play with, I'm friends with, I've known them a while, and the new ones I've gotten to know quick. And, I kind of lay that out in a little PDF even before session zero, that I personally, I get very graphic, and it's intense at times. And I push the limits. I keep it very cyberpunk. I keep it gritty, and I keep it grimy, and it's dangerous. All that good shit. And then I also go over, what I'll tolerate as a game master, which is no racism, and I don't go into detail when it comes to the sexual content. It'll be in the game. It's part of my game master style. I cover everything, but I won't go into detail about that stuff because I don't want pervy shit going on. I don't want racism. That's not to say it won't be in the game, that a booster gang or a corporation won't be racist, or something sexual happens, a player hooks up with a bartender to try to extract some information or something. But I'll explain that I don't like to go into detail with that. And on a player side, not character side, I don't like to tolerate racism and any form either of intolerance to people's personality or sexual preference, gender preference, all that sort of stuff, all those social issues. I don't like any of that triggering stuff. So I just lay that out, and usually I put that in a little PDF, and I'll get that to the players initially, just so they get an idea if they haven't already seen videos of me playing, or they don't already know me as a GM. And that just kind of lays out my game master style. And that's, like I said, the first thing I like to do. And then in session zero, that's kind of the first thing I'll recap. I'll say, well, for me, because of streaming especially, I'll say it, hey, anybody watching, and for my players, I play it as hard cyberpunk as I can. I take things to the extreme. Sometimes it'll get really graphic. And one thing I like to do, just a little tip within these tips, is when it comes to certain graphic things with violence, I'll allow the players to kind of take the reins on that, and that way I know I'm not overstepping their comfort zone. So if somebody does an extreme kill or a situation, maybe it's not violent, but any type of extreme situation, especially kill shots, I'll ask the player, man, I'll let you, with a roll like that, and you just finished them off, I'll let you describe how you just ended this person's life, or how did you finish off this gang member, how did you pull this off, and I'll let them kind of describe it. And then that way I'm not overstepping the comfort zone. They get to have a little fun with it, and it still gets to happen. It's in the game, but it's within kind of my game master style and the player comfort zone. So I like to lay all that out first. Second, let me get that up there. It's the game style. So now after I go over the game master style, I like to go over the game style. And this is very, player driven. I'll ask the players, Do you like to be more like murder hobo-ish? Like, do you like the lots of action and violence, or are you more role playing? And kind of getting into character and living a life within that world. You're more into like the role playing side, or are you more in And then within that game style, do you like solving mysteries and puzzles or crime solving, or are you more like defending and or offensive or defensive? I'll go over different game styles and kind of let the players do most of the talking there. A lot of times players, if you're lucky, will just be like, hey, I'm down for whatever. I like a little bit of everything. And then that allows you as the game master to have even more fun because there's no limitations with what you can do campaign to campaign, session to session. Maybe some are mystery and crime solving and puzzles, and some are just very action focused, and maybe some are just role playing and more just getting by and living life within that world and really making that rich and in depth. So whatever the style, I like to go over that game style with the players and get a feel for what they want, and then that allows me to kind of structure the game around that. Now that's not to say it's going to structure my game master style. I go over that first, and if they don't like me making things intense or being so graphic or touching on crazy shit, then maybe I'm not the right game master for them. They need somebody a little more toned down or whatever. But me, I'm very uncensored and I love it extreme. But then when it comes to game style, I like to let the players kind of define how they want me to direct, missions and jobs and stuff. And then that way I know that they're having fun within it. So I can keep my style, they can have the game that they want, and I know how, what angles to take. Next, I like to go over player life path. So at the beginning of session 0, I go over my style, then I kind of go into the game style and let the players take it. Then I circle back around and I like to hit each player and have them describe the life path that they roll or chose or however they went over it. And that's something else I just want to interject here, a little homebrew thing that I do. With Cyberpunk, you can either roll or you can choose the life path as you go through the sections and then the subcategories with each role, because that's how Cyberpunk Red is. It's awesome. It goes in great depth. What I like to do, instead of just saying roll or choose, I do a combination. Sometimes I'll tell the players, hey, roll twice and then pick which one you want. That way there's a little bit of that chance and, little bit of maybe a little out of your comfort zone with a character, which makes it more exciting and fun, and different things kind of create from being outside of your comfort zone. So I like that little bit of chance with the roll. But I also don't like the fact that if you roll once and you get one thing, you're just stuck with that and you're like, oh, I really hate that. It's not just outside my comfort zone. I don't like it. And then I also don't like just picking, because sometimes I feel like that can make things, unbalanced and just a little weird at times. So like I said, sometimes with life path, I'll let players roll twice and then pick their favorite. That way it's a kind of a combo. But however you want to do it, it's up to you. Just like session 0, however you want to do it is up to you. You can go in great detail or just lightly touch base on it or not do it at all. But me personally, I do it, and these are the 4 steps. So let's get back into it. So yeah, I'll have each player describe their life path and go into depth, like describe it as if they lived that life, and talk about the corporations they worked for, their family life, their friends, their enemies, their lovers, all that shit. And sometimes I'll help them define a corporation or a booster gang or certain things within it, or the player will define it. They'll have something in mind that maybe they researched or they came up with in their own creative mind, and they want to implement that into their character. So that's kind of fun too, and that's player to player, that's going to be different. So you just kind of let each player describe it, interject when they need help, let them come up with it as much as they want to. After you go through each individual player and you get a real good feeling of each character's background and exactly who that character is, then you move on to step 4. Step 4 is team synergy. After everybody gets a feel for their characters individually, we discuss as a whole team synergy. How do these individual characters know each other, trust each other, work together? How does this work in the world of cyberpunk? The world of cyberpunk is very cutthroat and you can't trust anybody, and everybody's just out for the dollar or power or backstabbing, and it's fucked up. It's a dark dystopian future. So it's difficult just to start with session 1 and say, okay, all you guys are working together, you trust each other, go do a gig, go do a job, this is what your mission is. That's why I think it's important to have a session 0, is not just laying out the game master style, the game style, getting a feel for each character's life path, But most importantly is 4, team synergy. You really decide there, okay, cool, you work at this corporation, you have an enemy with this corporation, this person, maybe they work there, but they're kind of fighting it from the inside, and that's where you guys kind of align with your motives and your traits, and okay, and then this character is very anti-corporate, or they're from this booster gang that is part of your life path in the family because you were raised in a booster gang. Maybe there's a connection there. A gang member in there was actually related to you, and that's how you know this character. And team synergy is important. Try to connect the dots. Go through each character's life path that you went in step 3, and then try to look where you can connect a corporation, or a person to a booster gang, to a family member, to a certain part of town or timeline, and that's where you connect the dots. And a lot of times the players will come up with some really creative, fun ideas there. You can see my session zeros posted on Mulligan Live on the YouTube channel, on the channel that this video is on. Anybody listening to the podcast, obviously you got to go over to YouTube to check that out. But yeah, I'd love going into detail as much as I can, but allowing the players to really come up with those connections. Like, even if I have something in mind, a player might throw something out there that I like even better. Or maybe they throw something out there that makes me think of something different and better, Or maybe I have a session or a campaign in mind that I know I'm going to do. And then after learning the life path, I see what parts of that life path kind of line up with what I have planned. And I'm like, oh shit, that's going to work amazingly. Let me drop that little seed in there and say, hey, that corporation is this one. That way, when they get to that session I have planned or that campaign, it kind of comes together and they're like, oh shit. Or maybe I don't have the campaign planned like that, and I learn those parts from the player life path and the team synergy, and then I start interjecting that into the campaigns. You can see in the Game Master Tips campaign building, quick campaign building episode, I kind of explain that about pulling in parts from players' life path in random campaigns and sessions to kind of pull things together. And it also increases the motivation of players to be involved with different missions and things that happen. But anyways, that's campaign building. You can check out that video separately. What I'm talking about right now is session 0. So yeah, after I line up the team synergy and work with the players, my session 0 is done. A lot of times at the end, I'll just recap it. I'll just go over a little thing with the players. Sometimes I won't. It just depends on how that session went. If it went so detailed that I feel I need to recap, sometimes I'll recap the Game Master style, the gameplay style, just to remind people watching, remind the players. Sometimes I'll just go over the team synergy. Hey, okay, so it looks good. We have our rocker that's like this from this, and our solo like this is, and our this and that and that. And then all together, you guys kind of know each other like this and that. And I'll just recap maybe like a Cliff's Notes version or whatever, just like a little outline of what we went over. And then session 0 is done. And then that allows me to have a really good session 1, session 2, and just move on from there. I don't have to start session 1 figuring out how they know each other or have that awkward moment where they just meet up at a spot and then I'm relying on the players to role play and figure it out. That can be fun in itself, but 9 times out of 10 I've seen that just kind of get boring and hit some dead space in the sound and some blank faces, and then they have to juggle and figure things out, and it feels weird because some things don't make sense. Session 0, you can kind of iron out those wrinkles, you can figure out what works and doesn't work, and then that way going into your proper session 1 and mission sessions, you're looking proper, you're looking right, you're making it happen, and it's making sense. It's not just feeling thrown together or like, oh, let's just skip over how you know each other, let's just get right into the job. Like, fuck that. Session 0 allows you to establish the world and the players, and it makes it real. And then you can start your sessions already in it, and the life path and the synergy is established, the world, it kind of comes together already, so you can start right into it. But anyways, I'm starting to talk on tangents. I could go all day talking about Cyberpunk. I love this shit and I have a passion for it. Please check out the links in the description and show me some love. I've got a podcast available on like 25 plus platforms. Go look it up. Check out the other videos that I have on the Mulligan Live YouTube channel. Definitely tune in for the live gameplay. I run 2 teams weekly using official Cyberpunk Red rules that I was given by R. Talsorian Games. I'm so excited about that still. But yeah, we stream that Tuesdays and Wednesdays right now, 6 p.m. post standard time. So show me some love, share, like, and I'll see you everybody next time. Take care.